What's up, Shalligators? We are back, and we're talking, oh God, about Miley Cyrus. Her and Cody Simpson just broke up after 10 months of dating, and there is so much to unpack, because in typical Miley fashion, she is not going gentle into that good night. She's not staying home and doing respectable things. She's out talking about her vagina. That's all she can talk about, is her hoo-ha and what she does with it and what goes inside of it and who they are. She cannot stop. She can't stop. And I am just fascinated by the continuing psychological train wreck that is Miley Cyrus. She's not a bad person. She's not a stupid person. She's not a mean person. But she is a chaotic person. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Chaos. And not just like chaos in other people, because we love to talk shit about other people. You chaotic. Today we're going to talk about chaos in ourselves. How to stop being a mess. How to get your life together. How to stop engaging in the same patterns. And most importantly, how to be happy single. Ugh. We're going to break it all down. But first, just want to remind you guys to follow me on Instagram at ShallonXO. Also follow my puppy who's coming this week, Cowboy XO. Oh my God, I can't wait. I'm getting him at the end of the week. My mom is still trying to talk me out of it. It's not going to happen, Mom. And we can have some puppy adventures. I also want all of your puppy tips. Like every single puppy tip you have to give, put it in the comments. I need it. Also, be sure to follow me on Infstream. We're going for something wholesome like puppies to something very unwholesome like sex. Speaking of people who only talk about their vages, we're going to go on Infstream. It's a brand new platform that we have. It's $2 a month, ad-free, uncensored. And over there we have some hookup tutorials. They're all like PG-13, don't worry about it. We have kissing, hand jobs, BJs. We have a dirty talk tutorial coming hopefully tomorrow or the next day. We're going to see. And some other cool story times on there too. So head on over and let's get into Miley. So Miley, I like Cody Simpson. I've never heard anything bad about him. I've interviewed him a few times. He's so lovely, just really sweet. Just seems like a down-to-earth, like Australian dude. Much like Liam Hemsworth, Miley's ex-husband also seemed just like a chill dude, and they like the chillness of Miley. And it's always funny that people seem to construe Miley as very like chill, like she smokes weed. And to me, she seems like a ball of fucking chaos. She seems like the inverse of chill. And it's interesting that chaotic people often come in this candy-coated wrapping. It's like, I'm just the cool girl. I'm the chill girl. Nothing ruffles my feathers. I just want to smoke weed. It's like, I'm sorry, do you mean you're a drug addict? Do you mean you're a drug addict? Obviously, I think Miley was having some issues with drugs, because now she refers to herself as sober. I'm a sober living, and I don't want to meet anybody at an AA meeting. I'm like, well, shit, you must have had like a real problem. Obviously, like we could all tell by your behavior. It's not really a surprise. Sorry, the last to know. But again, that's what we're talking about here with Miley. How we can sort of fix our own lives if we realize maybe I'm the Miley. But let's talk about her and Cody first. So she went on the Call Her Daddy podcast, which we talked about Call Her Daddy here before. I like Call Her Daddy. Like, they remind me of me, when I was like that age and just hoeing around New York. It was fun. But you got to grow up at some point. Miley, for the record, is 27. She's 27. I'm older, obviously, so I think of Miley as like perpetually 18. She is not. She's 27 and she's a divorcee. She's a 27-year-old divorcee. Okay? Let's just keep that in mind. So this is what she said about Cody. Should I do it in her teeth? Right now, two halves can't make a whole. That's too exhausting. And we're individually just working on ourselves, becoming the people that we want to be. Like everybody else at this age, we're just deciding who we want to be with our lives and what we want to do with our lives. And so don't make it some drama story if next week we hang out and we're getting pizza. We've been friends for 10 years and we're going to continue to be friends. Just don't make it something that it's not. Actually, she maybe didn't say it on Call Her Daddy. But she said it. Whatever. She said it. Okay, you know what? I enjoy Miley quoting my advice. You can't be half of a whole if you don't know what half you are, right? And dating isn't actually halves and halves. It's not 50-50. It's 100-100. And on one hand, I want to be like, yeah, Miley, good for you. You're figuring out which half you are. You're figuring out how to be a whole. And then I just think, you couldn't have done that when you got divorced. That's when I did it. When I got divorced. That's when it was no longer possible to run away from all of my own bullshit. I mean, although, you know what? Of course it was possible. We see it all the time. Miley is much like a guy don't mean that as a compliment, in that she runs away from her feelings. And then she has these flashes of, I'm working on myself, but her behavior and her relationship pattern constantly contradicts that. What do I mean by that? You know how when we're dealing with exes, all of us girls, we all say the same thing. It's guys always come back, and they always come back right when you're over them. Like literally the week when you're like, I don't think about this person anymore. And he's like, I miss you. Why is that? Because when a guy breaks up with a girl, he starts on a 10. I'm free. I'm having so much fun. I'm fucking every girl every night. Oh, it's winter. I have a cold. My boss is mad at me. No one to talk to. I miss her. It's just this, it's this drop. Because they don't start out processing anything. Girls do. I miss him. I'm so sad. I miss him. Well, my friends are going out. That guy's kind of cute at the bar. Oh my God, I got a promotion. Who even is that guy that I used to love? And so we reach the same inverse place at the same time, right? Miley kind of does the same thing. She went from a divorce from Liam Hemsworth, a divorce. And not just from like, oh, a divorce from someone you knew for a year, a divorce from someone she was on and off with for a decade. She's 27. That's almost what, like a third of her life? That's a big chunk of change. She went right there into this girl relationship with Caitlyn Carter. I said this on my Instagram. Do you know why she does that? Because she can continue to be an asshole with girls and the media doesn't feel entitled to call her the bad guy, because then it's like biphobic, homophobic. It's like, shut the fuck up, Miley. You can be a mess whether you're with a chick or a dude. I'm bisexual. I know that better than anybody. Okay? Like the body parts that you're dealing with when you're having a raging issue does not negate your raging issue. So she jumped right into that relationship. And then when that ended, she jumped right into this thing with Cody Simpson. She is never alone. And again, if you look at her past with Liam, when they were on a break, she went right into something with Patrick Schwarzenegger. I still cannot believe that they dated. I still cannot believe she dated a Kennedy. He is a smoke, by the way. I don't get it. Anyway, whatever. No, I don't think about it once a week. It's fine. So she's not really been single, right? And that contributes to this chaos feeling of hers. But she's also, when we think she hasn't been single, we think of her as an adult. I think Miley, okay, just, you know what? I'm just going to keep reading some stuff that she talked about on Call Her Daddy. And I think this is the most horrifying statement I have ever heard. I was attracted to girls way before I was ever attracted to guys. When I was 11 years old, I used to think Minnie Mouse was super fucking hot. Which is so good because I ended up on Disney, so my odds went up. That's funny, haha. When I was like 11 or 12, my friends were starting to like tell me what they were doing with guys, and I didn't really understand it. So I got most of my girlfriends to hook up with me. Got most of them? The first time I ever hooked up with anyone, it was a girl, 2 of them. She was 11 and she had a lesbian 3-way. 11. This isn't good. I mean, and I'm not saying this as a joke. I wonder if like something happened to her. Like if she was like, you know, molested or something, because she has been very sexual from a very early age. And that is a huge indicator of something very, very bad happening, something very bad. It's just, I can't even believe she's saying this in a way that she thinks is like funny or normal. And then she talked about her first sexual experience with a guy, with Liam Hemsworth. She's like, he's the first guy I went all the way with, and I was 16, but I lied and said it was another dude, so I didn't feel like a loser. You aren't a loser if you're a virgin at 16. You're not a loser if you're a virgin at 26 or 36. Your value is not based on your pussy. I mean, and she's 27 and she still thinks that it is, because I kept waiting for the next line to be like, but that's crazy. That was so dumb of me to lie, because who cares if I was a virgin? That's not my value. Nope. She didn't say that at all. In fact, she said that she was embarrassed because she pretended it was like some other guy that she knew who ended up like getting married, and then it came out that he didn't have sex. Whatever. She lied to Liam for a decade that's who she lost her virginity to, or that she was not a virgin when they met. You lied to your husband about losing your virginity at 16. At 16. which I think is, I think it's way early. You know, I was a virgin till I was almost 21. I didn't kiss anyone till I was 18. I don't know a single girl who started having sex super early who was happy about that. I truly don't. Every girl I know who started at like 14, 15, 16, they're all like, you know what? I wish I would have waited. It's fine. Like, I'm not like a broken person, but just like, I wish I would have waited. What was the rush? What was the rush? I was too young. It was maybe kind of scary. Like, Liam's a good guy and they had a relationship, so I'm sure it was like a beautiful experience for her, but that's not the case for all of us. We don't have, it doesn't go that way, you know? And my first experience was, I've talked about it on InfStream about the incredibly awful fallout after, and I was essentially a full-grown adult, and I was still like wrecked. I couldn't have imagined that happening when I was 15 or 16. Like, that's crazy. And it's twisted and so telling that she still doesn't see anything wrong with that, or not like it's wrong, but like that she doesn't see anything that was potentially like that she shouldn't have had to be embarrassed by being 16 and a virgin, that, hey, maybe having a threesome when you're 11 is not super normal, not healthy. Forget the word normal. It's not healthy. That is too young to be sexualized. I don't know. Lots to unpack. Girl, you get into therapy. I can't do everything. Then she had another quote. And because of course, all she ever talks about is sexuality. All she ever talks about is drugs and sex and her pets. That's it. And it's just enough with your pussy. My identity is related to sex in a much deeper way than my sexuality. I don't get that. I enjoy sexuality more than I enjoy sex. Oh, so you're a freak in the streets and a lady in the sheets. Perfect. She said, I don't fuck with foreplay because I'm too busy. I don't like to tease things. I just like to go for it. I could have foreplay longer with a girl than I could with a guy. Well, yes, that's because you got to warm a girl up. I've hooked up with girls. I don't appreciate a girl just being like, just getting in there. It's like, yo, we are both crock pots. We are not microwaves. Let's take our time. I also can't think of anyone I would rather hook up with less than someone, guy or girl, who's like, I don't like foreplay. I just want to ram it on in there. It's like, no thanks. You know what? No thanks. Can we just watch the latest episode of Yellowstone? I'm too busy. Are you, Miley? Are you too busy for foreplay? Literally the only fun thing on planet Earth? You're too busy to make out? You're too busy to feel someone up and go to second and third base? What's the point? Why don't you just skip it and use a vibrator? This interview was such a disaster. I can't believe like her publicist didn't come like kicking in the door and putting a fire blanket over her and snatching her out. It's a mess. But Miley's a mess. Like I said, she's so talented. She's a nice person. There's nothing wrong. You know, she's not a hateful mess, but she is a chaotic mess. And this is what we have to realize about not only other people, but also about ourselves. You don't have to be mean or bad or wicked or hateful or scheming or whatever to not be healthy, right? I talk a lot of times about like relationships, and you're in a relationship and it's like, it's not fully fulfilling, but he's so great. It's like C's get degrees, right? He's a C+ relationship. You want an A and you deserve an A+. Same with just people in our lives, and same with our own behavior. I finally, years ago, decided someone doesn't have to be wicked to have no place in my life. I could simply not like them. And usually when I realize I don't like someone, it's because they're chaotic. They're chaotic. I would almost rather have someone less chaotic, but more like Machiavellian, you know, like a worthy adversary, than someone who's like, she's really sweet, but I don't know, every time we pick her up, she's already drank a bottle of wine and then she's throwing up at dinner and blah, blah. I don't need that shit around me. And if I don't want that around me, I can't be that to other people. So let's talk about how to be less chaotic. You can apply this advice to being less chaotic as a friend, as a girlfriend, how to be single, whatever, okay? I've got a bold message for you here to start out with, right? Assume everything is your fault. I know. Nobody wants to do that, and it probably isn't. The exception to this, do not assume that your parents' love for you or traumas like that are your fault. They're not, absolutely not. But if you have a chronically chaotic relationship with your family, let's just assume this is an experiment, okay? We're doing a psychological experiment. Let's just assume it's all your fault. That is going to feel so uncomfortable, so unfair. But on the other side of that, you are going to get data. And sitting in this everything is my fault space is temporary. We're just visiting. We're just cosplaying, right? And we're doing this in order to push data about our situation to the forefront so that we can step back, we can have those data points, and we can use them to make our life better. What do we mean? Okay, so we assume everything is our fault now. I have my personal peccadillo, I've realized, is dating guys who need to be rescued. Look what I do for a living. I rescue, I fix, I analyze the psychology, I come up with a plan. I am prone to codependency, and when I date someone chaotic, it's easy to be like, everything is his fault. Everything he's doing is his fault. Every fight is his fault. Every bad outcome is his fault. And when I was like, let's pretend it's actually all my fault. I did this when I broke up with my ex-boyfriend. And by doing that, I no longer get into these codependent relationships. But I had to do this fault assumption experiment. So I'm like, okay, this is all my fault. This is 100% my fault. Let's look at the last fight we had. Because we went on a trip and he couldn't print a boarding pass and he didn't know how to do this. This was all my fault. Why was it my fault? Why was it my fault? Because I didn't give him the space to figure something out. Because I planned the entire trip and I didn't ask for his input, so his behavior could have been passive aggressive as a way to exert control. You know what I mean? And we can explore these theories with as much neutrality as possible to see what hits. It's like our trip disaster was my fault because I paid for it all and it emasculated him. No, I don't think that's it. Okay, that's fine. We're going to reject that theory. Let's try a different theory. Okay, it's my fault because X, Y, and Z. Oh, that feels like maybe a little bit closer, right? A bad outcome I have with a friend who just lit me up the other day, just said something really harsh and really mean, and I was super upset. That's my fault. That's all my fault. Why is that my fault? Because I've spoken to her like that in the past. And I have a predilection for being able to dish something out and not take it when it comes to my friend. Okay. So now I've logged some little data points and now I can step out of that "it's all my fault" thing. and I can leave those data points there and connect some dots. Okay, I tend to be harsh with my friends. Have I seen that other places? Now I'm looking not at data points, I'm looking at patterns. We need to start looking at patterns because no, not everything is your fault. But baby girl, you are the common denominator in your life, right? I don't just always attract fuckboys. I don't know, guys always just cheat on me. What decisions are you making that is pulling you towards the same dynamic, the same personality, the same outcome again and again and again? I bet one of those things is a victim narrative. Miley loves a victim narrative. She fucking loves it. Nothing is ever her fault. She's never like, I was a disaster to my husband. Have you ever heard her say that? She was, though. I break hearts. I get into relationships too easily. I'm chaotic and I envelop people into my life. I don't take on any part of their life. I bring them into mine so that I have all the power. I hear almost no self-awareness from this girl. She dresses up all her pussy talk as self-awareness. Baby girl, it's the opposite. Nobody cares. It's not like, cool, how many people you fuck. It's just so like banal and one-dimensional. Like, great, you have sex. We all have sex, honey. It's like saying you go to the bathroom. It's like, we all do it. Don't need to talk about it. It's not that interesting. There's very little actual self-awareness that I hear coming from her because she prefers a victim narrative sometimes. And we all do. It's very useful. So how do you hone in on your victim narrative? How do you know if you're entrenched in a victim narrative that's so deep and so pervasive you don't even see it? Stories. Look at the stories you chronically tell. We all have sort of like an anthology, like the Book of Shallon. Like, here are certain like tent post stories that I tell about my life when I meet someone new. I tell them this and that and this and that. Like, take yourself on an emotional Tinder date. Take yourself on an actual Tinder date and try to keep a mental note of the stories you tell, the narratives you pull towards what you want people to know about you on the first or second date. And then write those stories down. Just jot down the basics and then look for patterns there. Not just patterns, look at what those stories are meant to convey. What is the thesis statement? I'm a badass. I'm vulnerable. I've been fucked over by guys. I'm a this. I'm a doer. What is it? What is your mythology? What is your mythology? Once you can look at your mythology, you can start to manipulate it in a positive way. Like, manipulation is not a bad word. It just means changing something for your own benefit. And that is our entire reason for being alive, right? Once you're like, oh, those stories I tell are meant to make me look not like an egomaniac, but they're meant to puff me up. They're meant to puff me up. They're not meant to actually draw people close to me. They're not meant to elicit a bonding. They're meant to elicit oppression. I want you to know that I'm better than you. That's why I'm going to bring up all my book deals. I want you to know that you're not on my level. That's why I'm going to let you know I've got a blue check mark on Instagram. And because having that dynamic now gives me power over you. Why do I need that power? Because I'm afraid of getting hurt. Why? Because I'm insecure. Oh, fuck. You got to take it down. Because when you can get to that root, that psychological splinter, what is the persona I've made up to insulate myself from hurt? Is it doing that? Or is it actually the thing that is hurting me the most? Is it repellent to other people that I'm the party girl, the braggy girl, the victim girl, the emo girl, the broken girl? Whatever that is, how is that serving me? How is that serving me? So now that you've diagnosed some of your mess, and you could be very aware of your mess. You're like, oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. You might not know what it is. Like Miley, I strongly encourage you to get into some therapy. There's so much telemedicine going on. I was doing it, teletherapy for a while, just typing. It was great. We think that there's going to have to be just this 50-day trial period, where we get into things. Good doctors can make connections in a snap, and you're like, oh, okay. And when you can make those connections, you don't have to step into that everything's my fault experimentation. You can connect those data points in a way that isn't quite so embarrassing and painful, right? So now that you've done this, how do you fix messiness? It's another experiment. You are going to experiment with inverse decisions. It's opposites day. It's opposites week. Everything that I usually do, that's just that's just what I do. I mean, I take selfies when I'm at dinner. That's just what I do. I just get a latte every morning. I just do that. Experiment with doing the opposite. It is very difficult for us to experiment with changing our behavior and still reconciling that with having a sense of self. We need to feel like we know who we are. We have a core sense of self. We have a mythology that we follow. Because if we don't, we feel like a kite in a hurricane. We're just flouncing around. Nothing is anchoring us. We have no basis for our behavior. We feel constantly on edge, constantly off kilter. So the way to combat that is to come up with an opposites day role model, right? Ideally, this would be someone you know. This would be a big sister, a cousin, a friend, even some girl in your French class who you look up to or something like that you can go to and be like, you know what? I admire you. And I feel like I'm a bit of a mess lately. And I'm not asking you to say me or fix it. I am sort of asking to shadow you. How do you avoid XYZ? How do you go out and be sober? I know that you don't drink. How do you go to frat parties and not hook up with dudes? I know that you're still a virgin. Whatever it might be. People love to be asked questions and they love to feel like experts, and they certainly love to feel like they got it all together. So if you can press on that in a positive way for everyone's benefit, why not? Ask to shadow them for a weekend. I'm going to go where you go and I'm going to do what you do for a weekend, and I'm going to cosplay now as Hannah. I'm no longer Shallon. I'm Hannah, and I'm stepping into the Hannah role, and this is my opposites day character. I'm playing a character. I'm playing a part. And we talk about playing a part in a healthy way when we talk about faking confidence, right? When I have to go into a party, when I have to go into an event, I pretend I'm Kourtney Kardashian. I do. She's got her faults, but acting nervous and intimidated, nope. She doesn't. She walks in, she's like, I am the View. And I'm like, yes, Kourtney. And I zip myself into the Kourtney suit until the Kourtney confidence and the Shallon confidence meld together, which happens very quickly. And then I have to zip myself into that suit less and less until really I just am Kourtney confident and it comes naturally to me. So we can do that with changing our mess also. But so let's say, it's empty. Let's say there's no sort of non-messy idol that you can follow in your life. Pick a celeb. You can pick me if you really want to. And be like, today is my Kourtney day. I am going to do everything I would assume Kourtney Kardashian would do. I'm going to get up and work out. I'm going to make myself a matcha latte. I'm going to lecture people about red dye in Swedish fish. Right? I'm going to take time away from my family. I have boundaries. Respect them. Do the opposite of what you think you would normally do. And pick someone who embodies some of those opposites. And maybe you're Kourtney for 15 minutes. Maybe you're Hailey Baldwin for another 20 minutes. Maybe you're Adele for 30 minutes. Make a list. Okay, oh, my alarm went off. Now I'm Adele. Okay, I'm going to go work out. I'm going to stay home tonight because she's not out doing all this stuff. Make a list of why you think you're messy. And if you don't know, well, first of all, we've looked at patterns, right? So you should kind of know, like, well, me going out and getting blacked out always leads to a fight with my boyfriend. So instead of that, I'm either not going to go out, or if I do, I'm not going to drink. And none of this will feel fun at first. None of it's going to feel fun. It's going to feel inauthentic and shitty and scary and vulnerable. But what is leadership? We talk about this all the time. Leadership is risk in service of authenticity. To be your actual authentic self, you got to take a risk, right? Celebrities are celebrities because they're leaders. They're risk takers. They stepped out on limbs that other people didn't. And sometimes that limb was not them stepping out and being alive at the party. Sometimes that limb was them staying home and learning how to play the guitar and writing songs and going to voice lessons or getting, skipping the party, get up early to work out so that they can be a model. Whatever that is, that was risk. And that created authenticity, which in turn made them a leader. You don't need to be a leader in society. You don't need to be a leader on YouTube or on Instagram. You need to be a leader for you. You need to be a leader within your own self. Your mythology needs to be one of leadership. And you do that by looking at patterns, assuming fault, and seeing if that gives you clarity about some of your decisions and how you're contributing to outcomes in your life, which will therefore clip that victim narrative that is so unattractive. It is so unattractive to be a victim. I've always said, I'd rather be braggy than be a victim. People are at least kind of inspired by braggy people. We're interesting. Victims, who the fuck wants to talk to a victim? Oh, I'm broken again. He dumped me again. It's like fascinating. I gotta go. Then you're going to experiment with inverse decisions. Today, I am going to live just the opposite of what I'd normally do. I usually sleep until 10. I'm up at 7. I eat pancakes. Nope. I'm having a kale smoothie. Then I'd sit on the couch and watch the Kardashians. No, I'm going to go for a run. Write down what your normal day is and just try doing the opposite. See what feels good. See what's like, maybe it'd feel good down the road. Doesn't feel good now. Maybe I'll stick with it a little bit. See what doesn't really have an impact. It's like, okay, so, I got up and put my makeup on and I went out and I actually didn't feel very different. I felt sort of uncomfortable in my makeup. So I'm good being the girl who doesn't wear makeup. Great. Good for you, girl. Whatever. Experiment with those inverse decisions, gather data, connect the dots, look for patterns, and level up. If you guys were once lost but are now found, if you were once a mess but now you've turned it around, tell me how you did it. Did you have someone sit you down and be like, this has got to stop? Did that make a dent? Who said it? Did they withhold something? Was there a consequence that you didn't see that they were like, well, then I'm leaving. Then you're not invited here. Then I'm breaking up with you. Then no one wants to be around you. Did that matter? I'm really curious. And like I said, click like and subscribe. Find me on Instagram and also on InfStream.